Rebecca had been on the phone with her beloved daughter Sophia for more than an hour, and she couldn't get enough of the conversation. They had not seen each other for a month, as her daughter was busy with moving, renovating, and other household chores, and the topics had accumulated enough to discuss. Laughing, Sophia told her mother funny stories from her new family life, and Rebecca thought with a warm sadness about how much she missed her dear girl. Before, they were always close to each other, walking in the parks, going shopping together, watching old movies in the evenings, and talking a lot about the most intimate things. But time came when her daughter married Dennis, who was in the army, and the young people moved to live in a distant border town. Since then, Rebecca missed her daughter very much, and often spent time in pleasant memories of former days. "Oh, Mummy, Dennis is coming," said her daughter, and Rebecca heard an incredible tenderness and warmth in her voice. "I need to feed my husband. Call me more often, okay? And don't forget your old mother," asked Rebecca sadly. "Oh, come on, you're not old at all," snorted Sophia and laughed. "You're a woman at your best age." Rebecca smiled and furtively glanced in the mirror. From the reflection, she looked at a grown-up, but still beautiful woman, with a proud posture and a nice figure for her years. Even the beginning of grey in her hair gave her a sophisticated charm and did not age her at all. Only the wrinkles around her eyes and lips were already difficult to hide, and more of them were appearing every day. "Well, if you say so, I believe so," replied the mother with a laugh. "Give my son-in-law my regards." She hung up the phone and, sighing heavily, sank back into pleasant memories. The unexpected ringing of the doorbell surprised the woman because she was not expecting anyone. Her husband was not supposed to be back until late at night, and her only friend Eliza had gone to her summer house. The doorbell rang again, and Rebecca, frowning at such insistence of an unexpected guest, hurried into the hallway. But as soon as she opened the door, there was no trace of her irritability. In front of her was a courier with a huge bouquet of flowers. "Hello, flowers for you from Caleb. Please sign," said the courier cheerfully. "Ah, from Caleb," smiled Rebecca, and her heart squeezed with tenderness. "This is my husband," she added for some reason. "You have a great husband," approved the guy, holding out the form. Rebecca blushed with embarrassment. The surprise was unexpected and pleasant, because Caleb rarely spoiled her with gifts without reason. The woman sighed, took a heavy bouquet, and immediately noted how beautiful it was. She put her face into the flowers, inhaling their fragrant smell. The woman decided to put the bouquet in a vase, but suddenly a card fell out, which Rebecca did not notice at first. It said "A Love Confession" on it. A smile slowly fell from Rebecca's lips when she read the signature on the back. "To Linda, from Caleb." The joy of the gift immediately faded, giving way to doubt. "It must be a mistake. Even the handwriting is not Caleb's," thought Rebecca, and, to be sure of that, decided to find out from her husband. "Caleb, I got your flowers," she said hesitantly as he returned from work. Her husband froze for a moment, then turned to Rebecca and smiled broadly. "I just wanted to make you feel good. I hope you enjoyed it," answered Caleb immediately. The woman nodded and, after thanking him for the bouquet, held out a note, glancing questioningly at him. Looking at the card, Caleb frowned, kept silent for a minute, and then nonchalantly suggested that it was probably the mistake of the flower store manager who took the order. He looked up at his wife and saw her intense gaze, laughed, and told her not to get upset over such nonsense. Rebecca relaxed a little and thought that she most likely really shouldn't have worried, because the address was correct and mistakes happen to everyone. "That's how families fall apart," laughed Caleb again, and after throwing the card into the trash can, he held Rebecca to his chest. "From now on, I'll only bring bouquets in person. Okay?" Rebecca nodded and hugged herself even tighter to her husband. They had been married for more than 20 years, and in all that time, she had never stopped loving him. Calming down, Rebecca called her husband for dinner, and gradually she almost forgot about this silly situation. A week passed, and the couple, for the first time in a long time, decided to spend the weekend together. Caleb had almost no spare time because of his work, and he often came home when Rebecca was already asleep. So on Saturday, when the husband suggested they go together to buy a present for their daughter's birthday and then go to the movies and have dinner at a restaurant, Rebecca agreed with pleasure. On the way to the mall, Caleb stopped at a gas station, and Rebecca, feeling a little sleepy because of the early wake-up, asked her husband to buy her a take-out coffee. Caleb filled up the car, brought Rebecca the cherished cup with the invigorating liquid, but he forgot the lid for the cup. As soon as the car moved, some of the contents of the cup spilled out onto the seat. Rebecca groaned and grudgingly reached into the glove compartment. But instead of a packet of wet wipes, 2 theatre tickets fell out. According to the date on the tickets, their owners watched the show yesterday in the best seats in the parterre of the most popular theatre in the city. At that moment, Rebecca completely forgot why she had looked in the glove compartment and thought only of the fact that just yesterday Caleb came in late, saying that he had been in a business meeting. "Caleb, what is it?" asked Rebecca, looking intently at her husband. The husband squinted at Rebecca without taking his eyes off the road, calmly said, "Some tickets." "I can see that myself," resented Rebecca. "And after that, you were going to claim you were at work yesterday?" The man frowned and then, tapping himself on the forehead, laughed and said that yesterday he had given his car to his friend who had recently found a new girlfriend. They were going to the theatre, but the friend had given his car to be repaired. "What a nice story," said Rebecca thoughtfully, still hesitating. "But I couldn't say no to him. Don't you believe me?" "Well, if you'd like, let's call him, and you'll hear everything yourself," grumbled Caleb, and demonstratively pulled out his phone to find his friend's contact. Rebecca, a little embarrassed, covered his hand with hers. "No need, Caleb. I believe you." "I always knew you were a wise woman," he replied contentedly, and brought her hand to his lips. However, Rebecca's mood that day was spoiled. She wandered absent-mindedly through the mall, not enjoying the shopping, and all because doubt had settled deep in her soul. There were too many coincidences, but the last straw in the cup of her patience was another accidental find. Rebecca, as usual, was putting things in order in the house and selecting things for the wash, found in one of the pockets of Caleb's jacket a check from the exclusive underwear store. No matter how she tried to find some harmless explanation, she could not. The conclusion was apparent. Her husband bought this underwear for another woman. To find out for sure, this time Rebecca decided not to ask him anything, but just to follow him. And the first attempt confirmed her hunch. Rebecca saw Caleb meeting with a young pregnant girl during his lunch break, and judging by the passionate way he kissed her, she was hardly just his colleague. There was a big scandal at home with tears and breaking of dishes, but this time Caleb didn't lie and just left, slamming the door. And in the middle of the night he returned. Rebecca jumped out of the bedroom and was horrified to see her drunk spouse barely on his feet and with his mistress. "Ah, Rebecca," said her husband with a slurred tongue, This is my beloved Linda. We're going to live here now. Do you understand?" "What? Caleb, are you crazy?" "Immediately get out of here with that woman," exclaimed Rebecca. "I have said all I wanted to say. We'll have a child and need more space, and you can pack your things and get out of here," shouted Caleb. "And this is for your cab ride," he added, and threw a $20 bill at her feet. Rebecca got angry and grabbed the mop, that was the first thing she could get her hands on, and pounced on the traitor. "No, you get out of here, or I won't be responsible for me," she shouted, and pounded on him like a madwoman, forcing him to escape immediately and taking the frightened mistress with him. After locking the door with 2 locks, the woman, breathing heavily, sank into a chair in the hallway. She had not slept all night, and in the morning her daughter called her. Hearing her mother's husky, cracked voice on the phone, Sophia was frightened out of her wits and asked what had happened. Rebecca, swallowing her tears, told her everything, with all the details. "Daughter, what am I going to do now? We've lived our whole lives together," sobbed her mother into the phone. "Divorce, of course," categorically declared Sophia. "You don't have to feel sorry for him or forgive him. You are a wonderful woman, and you don't deserve to be treated that way. Even though he's my father, I'm not going to make excuses for him." They talked some more. Sophia tried her best to reassure her mother and then called every day to make sure she was okay. Her friend Eliza, upon learning of what had happened, immediately came to Rebecca and spent all her spare time with her. So thanks to her loved one's care, Rebecca's pain gradually receded, and the woman realized that she wasn't alone at all. Caleb returned exactly 3 weeks later. He held a bouquet of flowers, but without any card. He looked unkempt, depressed, and miserable, like a beaten dog. Rebecca wouldn't let him in, leaving him outside the door, and asked him glumly why he had come. "I realized I can't live without you," murmured Caleb, looking ingratiatingly at his wife. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I love you only, and I'm ready to come back." "What about your baby?" said Rebecca dismissively. "He's not mine. Linda tricked me. I heard her confessing to her friend, and all she wanted from me were presents in this apartment in the center of the city." As it turned out, her husband's mistress did get pregnant by another man, but Caleb, who had a spacious apartment, a summer house, and a high-paying job, seemed like a better match for her, so she lied to him about the baby. The plan almost succeeded, but an accidentally overheard conversation ruined it completely. Caleb lived in hotels for a while, and then decided to go back to his wife. Rebecca looked at her defeated spouse, feeling no pity for him, no former love. It was strange to her to realize that such strong feelings, as she thought, could be so easily thrown out of her heart. She asked her husband in a calm tone to wait for her outside the door. A few minutes later she returned, pushing a huge suitcase in front of her. "This is your stuff. We'll meet at the lawyer's office." "Oh, yes, here's your cab fare," she added with a grin, and dropped a crumpled $20 bill at his feet. After these words, Rebecca slammed the door in her husband's face and was not going to open it again.